What's up, everybody? Alex from Columbus here, and welcome back to another video. This is episode number 13 of What's on Tap, what I call the Vinyl Community Weekly Wrap, where I crack open a beer and then just talk about a bunch of records or things that are going on. So you probably know about what we get into at this point. So funny enough, at the time we're recording this, it is, I think, May 30th. So we are entering June in a few days. And today it was like 57 and rainy. And so, you know, I've been drinking a lot of like IPAs or Pilsners and all these different things. But I am what I decide to drink beer-wise is usually dependent on the weather. You know, I don't want to drink like a crispy, cool, refreshing Pilsner when it's snowing out. The same way I don't want to drink a big Imperial Stout while it's hot out, right? So, interestingly enough, we are not drinking what weather is typically like on May 30th. But I think drinking something that kind of fits the weather that's going on today. And so I went to my local bottle shop, the Great Gentiles, in Grandview Heights here in the Columbus area. And I got a beer from a brewery I've never had before, but it sounded good, and the can and artwork is out of control. So this is Brother Sam Oatmeal Stout, yes. We're drinking an oatmeal stout here nearly in June because of the weather. And this is by Three Tigers Brewing. So they definitely have a kind of a cat vibe going on. They're called Three Tigers Brewing Company. They're out of Granville, Ohio, which is a suburb of Columbus, home of Denison University for any of the college people out there. Brother Sam, obviously, got a nice looking tuxedo cat there with the bow tie. But then this is my personal favorite here. That's one happy cat. He do look happy. That's the Three Tigers logo. Kind of cool. And another great bit here. Prost. So, look, they're checking all the boxes, right? Just funny stuff. But yeah, Oatmeal Stout, 6.5%. Not sure that there is a commercial description on this per se, other than just that it is a oatmeal stout. So, oatmeal stout, right? This is something that gets thrown around. I think there's some misconceptions with it. While I'm blabbing, I'll talk about it. People think oatmeal stout has something to do with the flavor, and it can, but that's not necessarily the point. The idea of brewing something as an oatmeal stout typically means that it's brewed with flaked oats. And what flaked oats does is it creates a different mouthfeel, something that is typically smoother on the palate. Sometimes that could mean it's a little bit thicker, but basically it's just something where the overall mouthfeel and body is going to be a little bit smoother than some kind of stout that's not brewed with flaked oats. So there you go. I do anticipate this to be dark. I don't know how dark. 6.5% now. That's a little bit higher than some typical oatmeal stouts. Those might range in sort of the 5 to 6% range, but at 6.5%, it's not gonna mess me up per se. But let's get a pour into it. Coming out dark, but not too dark. A good kind of dark brown on the pour and into the glass itself. We'll get a little head on there, googity. I mean, that's professional business right there, people. Look at that. I mean, I might be committing a little bit of sacrilege here by using one local brewery to pour into another local brewery's glass. That's Parson North out of Columbus. But yeah, about an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch ahead here. As I look into this, it is pretty dark, but as it kind of had the ring light coming through, it is dark, dark, dark brown. It is not black. There is slight, very, very slight traces of light coming through here, especially at the bottom of the glass. But it looks fantastic. Great head retention on there. Yes, that is a proper term of head retention. Nice little fluffy, pillowy looking head. It did not look like it poured overly thick, but we will see. And yeah, now they're not saying that this is flavored with anything. So, it's not like a double chocolate oatmeal stout or a peanut butter oatmeal stout. It is just a standard oatmeal stout. So we'll see what type of natural aromas that we get off of it. Oh man, that just smells. It's actually funny. I do associate it with the weather, but less in the spring and more of the fall. Oatmeal stouts for me are great fall. It's all about the fall for me. I rarely, even in the winter, don't drink as many oatmeal stouts because usually if I'm stout drinking, they're going to be like big barrel aged ones. But this just kind of Smells almost just like, it smells light. Great roast on there. You know, you get sort of a little bit of those coffee sort of grounds, a little bit of that bitterness, kind of the roast coming up. Maybe a touch of dark chocolate, but not overly, in your face. This is right out the fridge too. So typically with stouts, I like to drink them closer to probably about 55 degrees or so. But yeah, smells good. Smells like an oatmeal stout. Nothing that's blowing my face away, but we'll get into it. Cheers. Okay. Ooh. Okay, interesting. Okay, so start from the top. Not a very thick beer. Oh, wow. Nice little bitterness on the back there. Not a very thick beer. It is pretty smooth per se from those flaked oats from the oatmeal there, but not an overly thick beer. I'm hanging out probably in like medium light almost body here. Big roasty toasty note right off the bat. Again, kind of that like coffee ground, doesn't almost kind of the bitterness of the coffee without the flavoring of the coffee. Slight little unsweet chocolate note there. But what's huge on this that I was not getting off the aroma for sure, big dark fruit vibes on the back end, almost like cherry cordial type vibes. And then that bitterness sort of lingers on and on and on. An interesting beer. Yeah, there's almost like not cherry cordial. I think a lot of actually thinking about it, the fruit notes that I'm getting actually might be from the hops. There is this hop bitterness in the background, similar to what you might get in like an IPA. I mean, this almost lends itself more to almost like black IPA range. Yeah. Big hops, a little bit of bitterness there. It's good. It's solid. Not my favorite, by far not the best thing I've ever had in the world, but I'm also not going to dump it or whatever. So, yeah, we'll go 3.5 out of 5 on this one. There you go. There's your official rating. The Brother Sam Oatmeal Stout from Three Tigers Brewing, as I finish that off. All right, let's get into some music here. There's your 8 minutes of beer talk. Hey, first I want to start off with some VCLT. That is Vinyl Community Love Train from the great Richard S. at Richard's Vinyl Tap House. And all these people are just like, let's drink beer and talk about records. What a brand we have created here. And he sent me this record. Now, he won a contest of mine. I gave away a M. Ross Perkins new record. I sent it to him. I said, congratulations, you win. Thanks for all the support. And he's like, hey, I got to send you something too. I know you've been looking for this record. And man, what a great piece of VCLT this is. When you mentioned sort of like the shoegaze genre, this is sort of like, what is like, this is like the dark side of the moon of the shoegaze world, right? Or whatever you want to talk about it. But the record is Loveless from My Bloody Valentine, 1990. What a gift this was. Thank you so much, Richard. This is amazing. It's something I've been looking for a long time. There's a lot of unofficial pressings out there. If you do know, if you're like looking in a record store or something, the unofficial pressings, and when I say unofficial, I mean the counterfeit pressings, are in like this super flimsy sleeve, not a gatefold. This one is a gatefold, all that type of stuff. Single sleeve, all that type of stuff. And you kind of know off the bat that it's, a boot or a counterfeit record or whatever. But these have gotten, harder and harder to find. They're in and out of press all the time. Maybe a record store gets like 30 of them and then they don't have any for 3 years, so forth and so on. So this is sort of not an original, but this was a pressing all the way back in 2003 where Warner gave the rights over to Plain Recordings, who pressed it to vinyl. I won't get into the sound recording, all that type of stuff. I think this record sounds just fine the way it is. I know there's some like all analog cuts out there, which is great, but I mean, there's part of me that's like, so much of this music is so droney and atmospheric and all that type of stuff. Like, I don't know that I'd be able to really dial in and dictate like, ooh, that's definitely cut from analog, and all this type of stuff. So I'm perfectly happy with this record. And Richard, I cannot thank you enough for sending it out to me. All of Richard's info below. Go check him out at Richard's Vinyl Tap House, where he also happens to drink beer and show records. So there's that. So I wanted to get that out the way. And then now we're just going to get into a bunch of records I've been listening to over the past week or so. This is a hodgepodge. These are not in any particular order, but we're going to get into them. Let's raise the irons a bit here. Seventh Son of a Seventh Son from Iron Maiden, 1988. So I love Iron Maiden. They're one of my favorite bands. I mean, I think nobody does Iron Maiden like Iron Maiden does. Hugely influential, just amazing across the board. Is this their last fantastic, amazing record? Maybe. I'll leave it to bigger fans to discuss that. What I will say is I think this I enjoy more than Somewhere in Time, which came out before it. And what I will also say too, this is certainly where they're leaning into more of like the progressive metal sort of side of things. I mean, Moonchild is great. The title track, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, is great. There's a lot of really great stuff on here. My one pet peeve with this record, and I think it's because when I was growing up, I had a Iron Maiden comp. It was like a greatest hits on CD. I've never really liked the song Can I Play With Madness. To me, it just screams 80s, especially with the Can I Play With Madness? And I'm like, oh, Jesus, this is not what we should be doing, boys. But all things considered, it's a great fucking record. So yeah, very cool. Difficult. This is an original 1988 UK pressing. What a deal. You know where I got this? I got this from my favorite record store in town, Elizabeth's Records. Check it out in the Columbus area. Good stuff. Now on the completely other side of the world, let's get into some jazz. Smack Up, the Pepper Quintet. Now, I shamelessly bought this because there was like a glitch on Amazon or something, and it was like $15, and that's half off. These are 30. I'm a huge Art Pepper fan. Sax, alto sax, amazing. He's rounded up by Jack Sheldon on trumpet, Pete Jolly on piano, Jimmy Bond on bass, and Frank Butler on drums. This is part of the Craft Recordings Contemporary Issue series. Audiophile treatment, Kevin Gray, I think. Sorry, this is a Bernie Grundman cut. Pressed at 180 gram at Quality Record Pressing in Salinas. Amazing stuff. I mean, he's ripping on here. The contemporary stuff is so good. And this is basically for like the jazz audiophile people. This is essentially an OJC. So the same packaging minus that kind of obi that they do. And I guess it's not Kevin Gray or Matthew Luthans, but whatever. Great packaging. Nice hard cardboard sleeve, single sleeve. Sounds amazing. And yeah, it was just great stuff. So a great record that I am happy to have. So I don't know, maybe it was about a week ago or something like that. I did a video on Pat's channel at Close to the Edge Parag over there in Ireland. And he had myself, Glenn Kellaway from the Basement, and Larry Graves' Canadian Stud Muffin on to rank our top 10 favorite Zappa records. Now, I will not be showing you what my top 10 was. You can just go check it out. But this is a Zappa record that I gave a full listen to, which is a lot because it's 3 LPs, and that is Zappa 80 in Munich. This was part of this in the Mud Club, came out in 1980. I think this is on You Are What You Is, maybe right before You Are What You Is. But really good stuff. You know, these from the Zappa estate or whoever's running the show over there, is it Ahmet now, are just amazing. This was cut and mastered or remastered, I think, by Bernie Grundman as well. They sound great. I mean, when I was first hearing about this, I was like, I don't know if the audio quality, I don't want this thing to sound like a boot, but this sounds great. Especially Frank's tone is out of control, right in your face. Some great solos on here. I mean, you got Chunga's Revenge on here. They go right into Keep It Greasy, one of the classic tracks from Joe's Garage. All types of great stuff on here. Bobby Brown Goes Down, Dancing Fool, all great stuff. So triple LP, great stuff from Frank Zappa. Yeah, there's a lot more where that came from. I am sure we're going to leave that for later. That's for you, Jason, if you're out there watching. How about a band that nobody talks about? I'm sure somebody talks about them somewhere, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about them. How about Argent? I gave a spin to the Argent anthology. You can tell, nice little timing strip. This is a white label promo. Yeah, this is like kind of like the greatest hits. You're talking Rod Argent after the Zombies, doing his thing. But, something like this, nothing else really sounds like Argent. It's like if you were going to explain Argent to someone, it's rock, it's a little poppy, it's a little psychedelic, it's a little proggy. He definitely has some prog elements in his Argent stuff. But, here's the thing. This starts off with Hold Your Head Up, which is, arguably the biggest Argent song. And then, of course, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, which I think, what a great kind of anthem that is. And then Kiss would later cover it and all that type of stuff. And then side 2 actually closes with like a live version of Time of the Season, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, again, no one really talks about Argent too much, but I'm going to talk about Argent today because I listened to this record this week and it was a good time. Okay, proggers, this is up there. This is going to be a album of the year contender. And when I mean album of the year contender, I mean it's going to be top 25. It'll make the video. I don't know where it's going to land, but it's the latest from Scandinavian proggers, Magic Pie with Maestro. God, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Are these guys Swedish? Are they from Denmark? Oh gosh, that's going to be tough. Hate to say it. Ooh, this was mastered by Rich Mauser. Rich Mauser over at the Mouse House, which was destroyed, actually. The Mouse House was destroyed during the LA fires, but he's done a ton of stuff with a ton of different modern day prog bands. But yes, Magic Pie, name aside, it's one of the dumbest names in probably music history. But they, in terms of kind of the Scandinavian contemporaries of prog, and there's a lot of them, I love these guys. They are just this really cool mix of cool virtuosic prog that's coming from Scandinavia, not unlike a lot of the other bands. A little heavier in spots. They're not a prog metal band, but they do have some heavier elements to them in spots. Vocals are kind of cheesy, but I like cheese a lot. Big cheese man. Big, huge, great hooks, great melodies, and the guitar player who sort of writes everything and is sort of like the front man in a sense is amazing. So I got into Magic Pie back with King for a Day, not to be confused with King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime from, Faith No More from the 90s. But I loved that album, so when I saw they had a new album coming out this year, I got it, and this is great. If you love kind of contemporary epic prog, this is good stuff, and I'm glad I got it. Well, I mean, speaking of old school contemporary prog, let's go to new school contemporary prog. Let's go to old school epic prog. And you know what? This popped up randomly. I wanted to give Rush 2112 a spin, and I love Rush. You all know this. I love Rush. And I don't struggle with this album. It's an amazing album. Amazing album. I'm always trying to dissect, analyze, boobatize, whatever, how much I like this album and how much that is written on side A with 2112, the title track, versus side B with the rest of the songs, right? I mean, Passage to Bangkok is cool, obviously. Only Stop for the Best, you know what it is. Twilight Zone's cool. Something for Nothing's heavy. I just, I've talked about this before in Rush World. This was such an important record for them that I feel that it is elevated to like this super stature because of its importance in the band's career, not necessarily, I would still take like Hemispheres and all that type of stuff above this. Again, I'm not shitting on 2112. Like, I'm not a fucking, piece of garbage, okay? I just don't know how much I love it compared to everything else. All things to say, it's a great record. I'm glad I spun it. Great stuff. As always, y'all know Rush. I mean, it's great stuff. This popped up, and I'm so glad it did. I love this guy. He's got 1 million albums, and I'm happy to say I have about 500,000 of them. Pat Metheny group, of course, with Lyle Mays, Mark Egan, Dan Gottlieb, on ECM, but a German pressing, because I guess, during this time, and I could be wrong here, it was like the US pressings on a lot of the ECM stuff were being like distributed by Polydor or something. They don't sound as good. So for a lot of these, if you're able to get the German ones, that's the way to do it. Anyway, 1978, Pat Metheny, just an absolute guitar god, really. I mean, just outstanding, but his band's great here. This is just a beautiful, beautiful jazz fusion record. A little bit smooth, but not smooth jazz. I think there's a big kind of distinction there, but I always I always love talking about Pat Metheny. I'm a huge Pat Metheny fan, and I think people trying to get into the genre, a great place to go. So yeah, Pat Metheny Group, a great record on ECM. Here's just a really fun live album that every time I spin it, I just have a great time with it, and it's Stand in the Fire from Warren Zevon, who I'm a huge fan of. This was on the, I think this was on the Bad Luck Streak and Dancing School tour. So what we're talking 1981, 82 or so on this. And yeah, or I guess 1980 this came out. And people have talked about this, but this is a high level, energetic, in your face, this punk kind of energy record. I mean, that sort of gives it away for sure. Some great renditions of Jeannie Nudes a Shooter, which was co-written by Bruce Springsteen. Excitable Boy, which is classic. Mohammed's Radio and Werewolves of London. Side 2 kicks off with Lawyers, Guns, and Money, which is just amazing. Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me, which was made famous by Linda Ronstadt a little bit later. And then I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. Well, won't we all? Great record. Now, this was reissued, I think, on... was it Run Out Groove, maybe? As a double LP, which was like the full show. I would love that. That's on my Discogs want list, but it's like a $130 record. So I guess I won't. I will have to sit and settle for the single LP for now. But a great, energetic rock and roll record from the great Warren Zevon. Here's a record that came out in 74 that is sort of... Is this the end of it? Not the end of it. I'll just get into it. It's Caribou from Elton John. Now, this is kind of at the tail end of sort of his run of just artistic perfection, right? Like, so many great stuff on here, or during this era. But in 74, or kind of nearing the end of that, but at the same time, there's so much good stuff on here. The huge hits here were The Bitch Is Back and then Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. I mean, those were huge records, or huge songs, and still are. I like Ticking, kind of the deep track. There's a lot of cool deep cuts on this record itself. Maybe I just hate the cover. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, to me, this is where we're sort of teetering, right? Like, if he was, like, here on, what, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, like, now we're like, you know, cut John a little bit. But, hey, it's probably normal for coming from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. So, yeah, I'm a huge Elton fan. A lot of people don't know that, but, yeah, Caribou, great stuff. I love this record. I love this artist. And I'm so glad I have it now. But it's Neil Young, Crazy Horse with Ragged Glory from 1990. This is like the recent reissue that is called Smell the Horse, which has an additional 4 tracks on a separate disc, which is really fantastic. It's interesting that he's sort of called like this grandfather of grunge, and that like people will call this like a grunge record. And granted, in 1990, it's sort of semi-pre that, but I never get grunge vibes. I understand where the whole grandfather of grunge comes from, and like it's a sound and sonic thing, but from the song standpoint, I never really felt that way. But, you know, to me, it's kind of interesting because I am Neil as a singer-songwriter guy, not Neil as the rock and roll star kind of guy. And so I was always sort of unsure about this era, but I really love this record a lot. Where it kind of comes in with all the classics throughout the 70s, I don't know. I might have to do that video at some point, but man, listening to this was quick. Songs are great, so much on here. Just absolutely loved it. So yeah, Ragged Glory from the great Neil Young. Can't get enough of that. Posted a video on this actually yesterday, and I'm just so glad I have it. Sorry, this got blocked in Russia because I played some clips. So sorry. And it's not monetized, so I won't get my 3 cents for it, but such is life. But it's self-titled from River Dogs, band that was sort of led by Rob Lamoth and Vivian Campbell before he joined Def Leppard. But what a great album this is. 1990, so hey, back-to-back 1990 records. This is just some great kind of hard rock, bluesy, soulful rock. Great hooks, though. Great guitar playing. It's my favorite Vivian Campbell guitar record, and he's just ripping on there. So glad to have that. And you know what? As we near the end here, here's what's on tap for this evening. It's Friday night. We're going to get into a live record, probably a series of live records. And here's what I pulled, because this was a Record Store Day release from several years ago. And I remember spinning it once or twice and liking it. I don't know if I've gone back since. Boy, isn't that just sort of representative of our whole stupid ass hobby, right? I bought it for Record Store Day, spun it once or twice, then forgot about it. It's fucking half of my collection, I'm sure. But it's a bit of maybe a polarizing artist, but I did like it. And this is a great era. And that is Lou Reed. This is live from Alice Tully Hall, 1973 on the Transformer tour. So, I mean, you could argue maybe, you know, the prime, whatever you will. A great set of obviously some of his solo stuff and then a lot of stuff from Velvet Underground. So he's got it all on here. White Light, White Heat, Sweet Jane, Vicious, Satellite of Love, Heroin, Walk on the Wild Side, and of course, Rock and Roll and Sister Ray. So I am going to be absolutely slaying this one tonight. It's going to be a Lou Reed kind of night here as we celebrate the end of May and get into some funky stuff later in the weekend. So there you have it. That is what is on tap. 2 nights. Lou Reed live at Tully Hall. And that's it. There you go, people. Thanks for watching. Another happy Friday. What's on tap for you? Thanks again for watching, and we will see you on the next one. Have a great day, y'all. Cheers.